Today is Veterans Day, an official national holiday here in the United States, and I wanted to take a couple minutes to talk about that this morning over a cup of coffee. If you need, go ahead and pause the video here and go get your own cup. It's okay, really. I'll wait. What you see here on the table are a couple of sidearms very similar to those carried by our military members over the last 100 years. On the Beretta grip, you see the Air Force symbol. I had these grips made because I spent some time wearing the Air Force uniform. That's part of the reason I want to talk about Veterans Day. I know a little bit about what it means to serve. I experienced it a little bit myself, and I watched my friends and fellow service members put the uniform on day after day. Great Americans that have a passion for serving and a passion for freedom and a passion for their fellow man. It's common to hear on this day, "Thank you for your service." The reaction our military members got from the general public in the early 70s was drastically different. But today it's generally recognized that military service is honorable service. Today is different and distinct from Memorial Day. Today, on Veterans Day, those who died are also remembered, but Veterans Day is the day set aside to thank and honor all those who served honorably in the military in wartime and peacetime. It's largely intended to thank living veterans for their service, to acknowledge that their contributions to our national security are appreciated, and to underscore the fact that all those who served, not only those who died, have sacrificed and done their duty. Memorial Day, on the other hand, is meant to specifically remember and honor those who have died while serving. There's also a much lesser known day in May called Armed Forces Day. It's intended to honor those currently serving in the U.S. military. I went and looked up the roots of Veterans Day, and it goes back nearly 100 years. Fighting during World War I stopped on November 11th, 1918, due to an armistice between the Germans and the Allies. The 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. November 11th was commemorated as Armistice Day by President Woodrow Wilson in 1919. In 1926, Congress passed a resolution calling for November 11th to be remembered every year. Here's a quote, "with thanksgiving and prayer and exercises designed to perpetuate peace through goodwill and mutual understanding between nations." 12 years later, in 1938, Armistice Day was officially made a legal public holiday. And shortly after that, we entered World War II and then the Korean War. So in 1954, Armistice Day was renamed Veterans Day. In the 70s, there was some back and forth on the actual day of the week or month that would be designated as the official holiday. And when they finally settled on November 11th, President Gerald Ford stated that it was important to, quote, "help preserve in the hearts and lives of all Americans the spirit of patriotism, the love of country, and the willingness to serve and sacrifice for the common good symbolized by this very special day." Now remember, it was 99 years ago today that the fighting of World War I stopped. I got out my San Antonio coffee cup today. San Antonio, one of the nicknames is Military City, USA. And San Antonio is where I graduated from basic training. Anyway, that's a little about the history and dates. Let's talk some numbers. Of the entire U.S. population, those currently serving as active military is 0.4%. That's 0.4% of our population. If you include all of those that have previously served to the currently serving numbers, it adds up to 7.3%. That's less than 0.5% of our population that are currently serving, and a little over 7% that have served at some point in their lives. Also, more than half of all veterans are over age 60 right now. As we think about this, let's not forget our National Guard and Reserve Forces and our many Department of Defense civilians and the many contractors in private industry that support our military members and their mission, and also the families and the friends and the communities that support our service members. These people are doing extremely important work. I want to share with you part of the reason I consider it so important. I'm a Christian, and the Bible shapes my view on everything. Let me quickly share a couple verses from Paul's letter to the Romans. In chapter 13, he wrote, "Let every soul be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and the authorities that exist are appointed by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authority resists the ordinance of God, and those who resist will bring judgment on themselves. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to evil. Do you want to be unafraid of the authority? Do what is good, and you will have the praise from the same. For he is God's minister to you for good, but if you do evil, be afraid. For he does not bear the sword in vain, for he is God's minister, an avenger to execute wrath on him who practices evil. One of the primary purposes of government, one of the main reasons governments exist, is to praise those who do right and to punish those who do evil. This creates a secure environment in which you can live your life because those that want to do evil things are either deterred by fear of the consequences or they're stopped. And it's individuals that do this on behalf of the government that voluntarily carry out these actions under the government's authority. They don't do these things as part of some sort of personal vendetta. They bond together with other like-hearted individuals to serve the greater good. If it's within our borders, it's law enforcement or peace officers. And if the threat is from outside our borders, it's our military. And it's not just those that specifically carry the sword, as Paul put it. It's not just the service members that carry the rifle on the front line. It also takes all of those in the support roles as well. Those that handle the manpower, the personnel, the intelligence, the security, logistics, the plans, the communications, the training, the finance. All of these things are required for the military to be an avenger to execute wrath on him who practices evil. Each and every one of the folks that put the uniform on swear an oath, and I think it's important to hear the words of that oath. The majority of the forces enlisted, and the oath that each and every one of them takes states, I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me, according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God. The officers take a similar oath, but the end differs a little. The officer oath states that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which I'm about to enter. So help me God. Do you notice that the oath is sworn by our military members is not to the President, it's not to Congress, it's not to a lot of things that people might assume. The military swears an oath to support and defend our nation's Constitution, that they will bear true faith and allegiance to it. In addition to the oath, there's a code of conduct that our service members live by. Listen to the words and the principles that our military members ascribe to. There are 6 articles to this code, and Article 1 states, I am an American, fighting in the forces which guard my country and our way of life. I am prepared to give my life in their defense. The second article states, I will never surrender of my own free will. If in command, I will never surrender the members of my command while they still have the means to resist. Article 3 states, if I am captured, I will continue to resist by all means available. I will make every effort to escape and aid others to escape. I will accept neither parole nor special favors from the enemy. Article 5 states, if I become a prisoner of war, I will keep faith with my fellow prisoners. I will give no information nor take part in any action which might be harmful to my comrades. If I am senior, I will take command. If not, I will obey lawful orders of those appointed over me and will back them up in every way. I'm sorry, I think I said that was Article 5. That was Article 4. Article 5 states, when questioned, should I become a prisoner of war, I'm required to give name, rank, service number, and date of birth. I will evade answering further questions to the utmost of my ability. I will make no oral or written statements disloyal to my country or its allies, or harmful to their cause. And finally, Article 6 states, I will never forget that I am an American, fighting for freedom, responsible for my actions, and dedicated to the principles which made my country free. I will trust my God in the United States of America. That's why we honor our veterans every day, and specifically on this day. My father served in the Air Force for more than a decade during the Vietnam War. He was blessed with the opportunity to spend a year of his life at a remote radar site in the north part of Greenland. Later, my parents spent their first anniversary separated by the Pacific Ocean. My father-in-law spent part of his youth making sure helicopters would continue to fly in Vietnam. I certainly want to extend my heartfelt thanks and gratitude to both of these men, their service to this country, and the example that they set. They lived out their oath. They personified this code of conduct. They and the many others like them stepped up to defend against evil so that you and I and many others could live lives free from tyranny. Many of you have served as well. I can name a few YouTube channels off the top of my head that are run by veterans. Let's see, both Charles Irby and Johnny from Johnny's Reloading Bench wore Marine uniforms, and I'm sure that Chesty Puller is still watching over them. Willie Bulletman served as an Army Ranger. Bullets for Freedom and Liberty recently posted a video where he was reloading with his son, who's currently stationed in the Army at, I think it was Fort Bragg. Now let's see, the Preacher from Preacher's Day Off spent some time serving in the Air Force. I know there's many more as well. I want to give a quick nod as well to those that have served in the militaries of our nation's allies and partners. Most of our wars have been fought alongside very important allies, to include World War I 99 years ago. You may serve a different government and have a different constitution, but thank you for your partnership in fighting against evil. So, raise your cups today and toast our veterans. Some folks put the uniform on for 3 years and some for more than 30, but they all earned their DD-214. And I want to offer my sincerest thanks to each and every single one of them. I can raise my children in a world that is admittedly not perfect, but in a country that is surprisingly free thanks to your service, your character, your dedication. Each and every one of you. I salute you. And I thank you for standing in the gap for us all. You are a blessing to us. May God bless you.